Okay, so this is the design I've come up with to create beautiful smocking using your embroidery machine. So let's get started. In order to start this project, you're going to either need a 5-inch wide piece of batiste or a light cotton that's about 5 inches wide, and it helps if you have your own pleating machine, but if not, you can always order online the pre-pleated fabric, or you could hand pleat it by yourself for smocking. This is my wonderful bargain that I got at a yard sale for $5. Usually these things run a good $200. So this was my bargain of the century. So like I said, I've got is just some pale green, just cotton batiste fabric. You'll need to have your 5x7 frame, and you'll want to load it with the stick and tear sticky stabilizer, but it's got to be the wash away kind, and I've used this one already once because you can see that I've already patched it. So this actually is an expensive stabilizer, but it will last because you can, once you're done, you cut out what you've already embroidered on, and then just piece it with another piece of stabilizer and you're ready to go again. So I'm going to put that on there for now. And of course, you're going to need some hand sewing thread just for a little bit, just to sew the top and the bottom of your egg. You're going to need some solvay stabilizer, and of course some assorted embroidery threads as well. The worst part of this was actually threading all of these needles. So I'm just going to tape it into position. I'm just going to put a couple of pieces of Scotch tape on here. And this I've taken like half the width of my fabric, which is maybe about 22, 24 inches wide. You could do a whole strip, but it tends to gather too much. I'm going to just put this on top of this straw, which is my roller, and I'm going to roll it up so that it comes out nice and straight. So this is actually, this first part of the lesson is how to use this reed pleater. Okay, like I said, you've got to thread and knot all of these needles. And to be honest with you, that was the worst part. And this actually works like a pizza roller, or like a pasta roller. So I'm going to put my fabric in here. And I'm just going to start it up. Now, I'm going to keep this on one line. Keep the edge of the fabric along one place so that you don't want to do this crooked. And so you just start rolling it. And see, it catches just like pasta roller. And then usually what I do is I'm going to hold some tension and just make sure that it keeps going in here straight. Because if it's not straight, your egg is going to be crooked. If it starts to get hard to pleat, I'll show you from this side. This is it going in. This side you see the fabric coming out of the so-called pasta roller. I said I'm going to keep this in going straight. When it gets hard to roll, you simply pull the fabric off of the needles. And you don't want to bend these needles. They're kind of delicate, so you have to be careful. These, I've been lucky. I've never had to replace my needles. And I just threaded these needles with plain cotton thread. And I'm just keeping everything nice and straight as I run it through the pasta roller. And like I said, it's getting a little hard, so hard to pull. Pull it off. You can actually do wider. There are slots here if you want to do it in the middle of a large piece. But I don't want to. This is only a small little egg. Most of the time smocking is a lot of hand work, and I used to do a lot of it many, many years ago. But I don't anymore because all I have is grandsons and they don't particularly like smock sleeves. I don't know why. Little boys, little girls, things are cute smock. And now I'm coming off the end. And I'm going to just pull that all the way off. And pull it down. And then I'm going to pull, you don't want to pull this all the way off. You'll end up with no gathers until I clear the needles, and then I'm going to pull all of these threads out. Okay, I'm done with the pleater, so I will put it away. Okay, now the next thing I know, since I've done one already before, I know this is about 5 inches long, so I'm going to distribute out these gathers, and I want them nice and straight. So I'm going to distribute out these gathers so that they're even. Sometimes it helps to take a little comb and you can smash it up a little. Just distribute these gathers nice and evenly across about 5 inches. So a little too much here, and I will distribute that off camera and get these nice and straight. Okay, now I've stuck it down, and I even put a little piece of tape so that these ends, so that the threads won't release. And what I did is I want to get this just as straight as I possibly can. And sometimes you have to give it a little tug and a little pull here with the threads to get it nice and even. And you want to keep these lines parallel. Where the stitching lines are. Just keep them as parallel as you can. Okay, now we're going to go to the embroidery machine. But first we need to put a piece of salvie on the top of it. So I'm just taking a piece of salvie. And I'm just going to place it on the top. This is so we can get nice even stitching. And you could spray it down if you like. I'm not going to. But you can just spray it down because you're going to do your stitching over that. Okay, I've loaded the design into my machine. I placed the salvie on top. And now we're going to go ahead and sew. So just hold it in place. And the first thing it's going to do is a basting stitch in order to hold the salvie on. Okay, and so I'm putting in metallic threads, so what I'm going to do is slow down my machine, loosen my tension to about 3. Okay, and then here we go. It's going to stitch the grid work. Okay, I'm going to stitch the rest of this off camera so that you don't have to sit and watch it stitch, because that's kind of boring. Okay, now you can see it's finished the grid. So now I've returned my tension back to not quite 4.0, which is the normal. I'm going to back it up to about 3.6 because I want the top stitching to be a little loose so that it looks a little more like authentic smocking, so it won't be so tight. So then I'm just going to stitch the next color, which is the little borders and the edgings of the smocking, and I just will stitch that. And what I'm going to do is just leave that so that it stitches off camera so that it's not quite so Okay, this is going to be a fun day. Okay, shredding. Why are we shredding? Could be my needle's dirty. Because my needle is gumming up pretty bad with this stabilizer. Now to clean up my needle, because there's nothing wrong with the needle, it's not stuck, but it is all gummed up, is that I'm just going to simply soak in a little bit of alcohol and it'll be good as new. Okay, I'm going to stitch the rest of this off camera so that you're not bored by all this stitching. Okay, now I've stitched the third color stop in pink. And I did have quite a bit of trouble with my needle gumming up, even with a titanium needle. So what you probably want to do is keep a bottle of just plain isopropyl alcohol by your machine and just put it on a little scrap of fabric. And as soon as you hear that thread starting to skip, just stop the machine and just clean off your needle, because this one is gumming up pretty bad, but then this is a very old piece of stabilizer. I've had it for many years, so it's probably deteriorated and not so good anymore. And now is the last color stop I'm going to do in purple. And again, I'm not going to make you watch me stitch the whole thing. And I did slow down my machine a little bit too. It just worked a little bit better. It didn't gum up as fast. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let that stitch off camera. Okay, the only thing I wanted to tell you too, I forgot to tell you before, is that you're going to need about an 8-inch piece of maybe 1/8 inch wide of ribbon. And then you're going to need some either lace pieces to go with the top and the bottom of your egg. If you know, or a button, something that will cover the stitching that we're going to do in a minute. Okay, so now I've sewn a quarter of an inch right here. And then I'm going to turn it. I want to turn today. Now this would be easier had I removed the stabilizer, but I didn't. And then I'm going to remove these pieces of tape. I don't need those anymore. And just make sure that you don't pull the smocking threads out, the gathering threads. And a little more here. And this one. Okay, so you've got all these threads hanging out, which can be kind of daunting. So anyway, you're going to take your egg, and the egg that I've picked, a little bit. The egg that I've picked is not the small eggs, but the large ones. This is maybe about 3.5 inches high. So that's what this design is digitized for. So you got all these threads. You're going to place your egg inside. And then what I did was I taped it closed, because that's annoying when you're trying to place this on here and it's not wanting to cooperate and it keeps falling apart inside. That happened before, so tape it. I'm going to center this embroidery on the egg. Okay, then you're going to start pulling these threads. So I'm going to, here's one row of stitching. I'm going to grab these 2 threads. I'm going to tie them into a simple knot, just a tie, and pull those threads tight. Sometimes this helps to have a buddy that will hold this thread down for you. You'll hold it and then tie a square knot. Don't worry about if the knot is pretty, because we're going to remove these threads and the knot later. What we want to use these gathering threads in order to gather in this smocking, the gather lines, and so we get a nice tight fit. So, oops, see my eggs falling out. Sometimes this helps to do this. Helps to have a buddy sometimes to put their finger in there. I can't tie a bow if my life depended on it. Okay, and then I'm going to tie it again. And I'm going to trim this, but I'm going to leave about a 1/2 inch of thread. So I just want the threads out of my way. I don't want to danger cutting the knot. And so I'm going to do that until I draw this up into an egg shape. And don't worry about these are perfect, because you know what? We're going to take those out. So I'm going to go ahead and tie the rest of these ties. Okay, usually I'll tie from the inside out, because if you try to tie one side all at one time, you're going to find your egg's going to slip out the other side. So I tied this one in the middle, and I'm going to do an extra knot. And then I can get rid of some of this excess thread. Okay, and then I'll do the next one, the next set. Right here. Okay. And see, you'll see it start to take shape. Okay, so pull that as tight as I can get it, and then I need a extra finger here, set of fingers to get this square and hot. Okay. There's an extra one. There's an I'll cut that off. Okay, I'm going to continue sewing all of these gathering threads. I'm going to tie them all nice and tight. Like I said, I'm going to leave these little spiny things out till I'm done. Okay, now when I get to the end, so it kind of looks like a hard candy wrapper, I'm going to wind one end around so that it's good and tight right at the edge. And then I'm going to just take a needle and make a knot. This one I won't take out. This one I'm going to keep. So I'm just making a knot. There. Okay, and the same thing down here. See, I've got all this extra. So I've got this long piece. Take the longer one and just wind it around really nice and tight. Don't break your thread until I get it close, and then I'll tie it again. Tie this into a knot. And then this end is good and tight. Now there's one more step I usually like to do. Is that before I cut this excess off, I'm going to just do a running stitch, a little back stitch around here, so that it's nice and straight, so that it's, in case this ever breaks, it won't come out. So I'm just going to take a needle and thread with regular thread. As soon as I get it out, here we go. And then just sort of do a little running stitch or a little back tack all the way around. So I'm not even being all that neat about it. I'm just going to take this and just do a back stitch all the way around. Okay. Then I'm going to take my scissors and cut all this excess off. Just chop it right off. As close as you can get it. Just make sure you don't cut your threads that are, want it as flat as you can get it. Okay, that's why I did that end stitching, in case I catch it, it's not going to come off. Okay, then the next thing I'm going to do is take my piece of lace, piece of lace or a button or whatever. Usually I like to use my Criswell lace. And I'm going to use the same. Now I happen to embroider these with a Criswell. Now if you were going to put your ribbon through here, you could sew your ribbon inside, you know, just run it through the little hole at the top so that you can have a hanger, but I don't want this to hang up, so I'm not going to put it on. And then I'm just going to tack down, using the same embroidery thread, tack down that piece of lace, and then it'll be all done. So helps to put the lace on there correct. So I'm just going to start to stitch it, and I'm just doing a few stitches just to hold that lace down. You could pin it if you like. I'm not gonna. Okay, this egg is all stitched up at the top, and so now the next thing I need to do is to take out this stitching. Just grab where the knot is and pull it out. There's one that is clipped. It's underneath of the lace. Okay, that one is out, and we really only have two to clip here. Actually, one's good enough. Okay. And see, now it's nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this. I'm going to remove the solvay by just taking a damp washcloth and just dabbing it. And that will take out all of that water-soluble stabilizer off the top. And it's all done. Fun. Okay, see, I have one in blue and one in green. And look how cute they are. So these will look really nice in a bowl. I'm going to make several of them of different colors. So happy Easter, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed this project. It's so you don't need to do a lot of hand smocking to create this beautiful Easter egg.